Hey everyone, Alex Williams of the New Stack here, and we have some fun today. We're going to be looking at some survey results, and joining me are Mark Rauchwarter, multi-cloud security lead at Accenture, Daniel Swart, partner solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, and John Morello, vice president of product, Prisma Cloud, Palo Alto Networks. So good to be with you all here today. Okay, so we have a little treat for you today. In March of earlier this year, Palo Alto Networks, Amazon Web Services, and Accenture did a survey. Now, this was a survey that we don't often see, and this actually may be the first time that this number of people have been surveyed who are in the world of cloud architecture, who are in information security, who are in DevOps. More than 3,000 people were surveyed, and we have some initial findings for you here. And really what the survey was looking for was the practices, the tools, the technologies that companies are using to meet and deal with the challenges of securing these cloud native technologies, which we know are much different and require a lot more thought and perspective, really pretty much because they're so new. So in this discussion, we're gonna have a little fun. We're gonna go through the findings, but we're gonna turn it around a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you all to guess the results from the study, and then we'll then see what the actual results are. So why don't we just get going here? And so I'll ask a question for I'll ask the question, and then I'll go to each one of you individually, and you make your guess and your answer, and then we'll choose the winner. Okay? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. All right.
Perfect.
So the first question. Workloads in the cloud now and in the future. What percentage of workloads on average would you guess that the respondents currently have in the cloud? And what would you guess the estimate for this number would be in a year or two? Now, I'll be judging on research, actually on your research and how close you are, but also on your answers. So think very carefully. I'm going to go to Mark first. Mark, what is your answer here?
I guess if I were to venture a guess, I would say probably somewhere near 50%. When we talk with clients, we definitely see a wide range who have adopted cloud technologies much more than they have in the past. We continue to see clients moving towards adopting additional cloud technologies, especially looking towards some of those cloud native development capabilities. So over the next couple of years, I would expect it to increase as well. Some industries are a little bit slower to adopt than others, but maybe 5–10% over the next couple of years.
So you would say about 50% now and then another 5–10% above that. So you're looking at 55 to 60% of the workloads to be in the cloud in the next 12 to 24 months.
Yes.
Okay. Daniel.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so from my side, yeah, we're in the midst of a titanic shift to the cloud, and it's seen everywhere. Looking at the workloads and the migration strategies of the customers I've been working with, I would say currently we're looking at 25% of the workload of the application workloads being hosted in the cloud, with the vision of customers, long-term vision to at least double that within the next year or 5 years from now as well.
So your guess was 25% and then doubling that? So
at the very minimum.
So 25, 50. So
Correct.
At the minimum on the 50. All right. John.
42% currently.
42% currently, and?
I don't know, let's say 58% in 2 years.
And why?
Well, I mean, clearly cloud is not something that's going away. I think it's clearly the future for where most organizations are going to run most of their workloads, but at the same time, I don't think anybody should underestimate the staying power of legacy technology. I mean, there's still a lot of the world's business that's transacted every day on mainframes and, God knows what other alphas and so forth that are out there in the world that aren't going to be moving to the cloud, obviously. So I think the reality of it is, no matter how much people want it, there's always going to be, both because of that inertia and also for, very legitimate reasons for data locality and survivability and regulatory reasons and stuff, why you may not have 100% of things in the cloud. So just a rough guess, I guess, for both of those.
Okay, so let me think here. Well, I say the patio lawn chair set goes to Mark Rauchwarter. Mark is the winner of the first question here. Way to go, Mark. Yeah. So the actual answer was 45% of their workloads in the cloud on average, and it's expected that 65% of their workloads to be in the cloud in the next 12 to 24 months. You were all a little bit low there. You were actually talking about some big acceleration. It looks like there's even more. So that is some interesting perspective there. Moving on to question 2. At the new stack, our community has listed many different challenges that inhibit them in moving their workloads to the cloud, ranging from complexity to compliance. So I'm asking all of you, what would you guess are the major inhibitors? So what would be the major inhibitors that people face when moving their workloads to the cloud? Mark.
I think it's a variety of different situations, and it really depends on what the challenges are for an individual client. So it's hard to choose one over the other. But if I were to choose, I would say one of the things that many of our clients struggle with the most is figuring out how to adopt those technologies and how to do it correctly. They definitely know there are tools and solutions out there, but how they really impact and they get the most benefit out of their investment, I think is probably one of the main struggles they have.
So I'm going to help you out a little bit. So I'm going to give you the actual kind of the list of possibilities. There's maintaining comprehensive security, compliance, cultural alignment, legacy change management processes, lack of talent, lack of executive buy-in, no clear cloud migration strategy, no clearly established ROI, lack of budget, or other. So maybe you could pick 3 and maybe and generally give us a number on each. I know this is a lot. But let's see what you got, Mark. So what would you say are the top 3 and maybe some percentage by them?
I would have to say probably from that list, the technical complexity of it would definitely be a large one.
You say, yeah.
In some cases, the lack of talent. They just don't have resources who have the necessary skills in order to adopt those. And in some cases, lack of budget.
Okay. All right. Daniel, want me to read them again for you, or did you get them the first time?
I think I got it.
Okay.
So dealing with the customers recently, a lot of it has been compliance. So there's a lot of demand on being maintaining their compliance and being in line with the compliance. The other thing is also lack of talent, and then legacy management processes. So I would put compliance at 50% and the other 2 at 25% each.
Okay. So number 1 is compliance. The 2 is lack of talent. What was the 3 one? What'd you say?
Lack of change management processes.
Lack of change management processes. Okay. All right. Okay. John?
I largely agree with Daniel on a lot of that. I think that the compliance is one piece of it. And I would explicitly say compliance and not security, because I think that most people have gotten over that hump of thinking that the cloud is somehow less secure than what they run in their own environments. But regardless of the technical security capabilities. There certainly are concerns around data locality and privacy. I think particularly, you know, in EMEA especially, there's been a lot of national efforts to try to introduce regulatory regimes that you know, are kind of under the auspices of privacy and data locality, but you know, in the end are also really intended to try to drive the creation of you know, some national industrial base around creating local clouds too. So that whole area around compliance and having to be aligned with government regulations is a big part of it. And the second one, whether you want to consider talent or legacy management processes or kind of a combination of both, it's hard for people to unwind a lot of these legacy applications, especially those that are perceived as really mission critical, especially things that people may not have really touched in any significant way in many years. You know, if you've got something that you use to do your, you know, kind of ERP system or some critical aspect of your line of business, and you really haven't actively changed that infrastructure and that application in you know, 5 years or maybe even more, you're probably going to be pretty nervous about the notion of unwinding all that, moving it to someplace completely different, changing the underlying operating system and network topology and so forth. There's a lot of risk that goes into that. You know, I remember when cloud first sort of become the cool thing back in, you know, 2010 or so. There was this notion that somehow picking up your mess and just running it someplace else was somehow going to save you money. And you know, the reality is, if you don't have a good set of management practices for your own environment as it exists today in your own data center, you putting that in the cloud is not going to make that situation any better. In fact, it will probably make it worse. And so I think that in addition to the compliance part, just, you know, how effective organizations are at running their own IT, particularly legacy IT, are two other factors that tend to delay cloud adoption.
So the number 3 again was?
Pick whichever one you want. We'll say talent's number 3.
Talent, okay. Number 3. Well, looks like the respondents are saying technical complexity at 40%. Second, maintaining comprehensive security at 37%. And compliance at 32%. Mark, you get the second round again. You're going to get the gas grill. Let's give it up for Mark. All right. Okay, so let's move on to question 3. Now, when just going back to what y'all were saying was like, so maintaining comprehensive security, 37%, compliance at 32%, cultural alignment was 24%, legacy change management was 26%, lack of talent was also 26%, lack of buy-in was 20%, no clear cloud migration strategy was 22%, 19% for no clear cloud migration strategy, no clear established ROI was 19%, technical complexity of 40%, and lack of budget at 23%. So another was less than 16%. So let's move on with the results here. Okay, so question 3, how many different vendors does your organization contract with? And so the question is, again, how many different vendors would you guess our respondents say their organizations are employing to secure their cloud native infrastructures? The range choices are 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, and then 21 to 50. So I'm going to switch it around here a little bit. John, I'm going to give you a chance to answer this question first. What's your guess here?
350.
21
a lot,
to 50?
basically. I think people use a lot more vendors than they may realize. And the reason for that is that even if you're not paying somebody, you know, on a contract rate or purchasing software from them directly, you know, the reality is we're all very dependent upon lots of different open source projects today. You look at the ecosystem that, you know, that we all operate in, and, you know, the upstream providers of those projects, you know, from Kubernetes to Jenkins to, you know, Docker, things that everybody uses. even if you're not paying them, you can think of them from a risk mitigation standpoint, a security standpoint. It's almost being like vendors, right? They control their roadmap, not really you directly. They control their security posture, not really you directly. And so the number of vendors that you're dealing with is larger oftentimes the number of people that you're actually paying. Now, that said, people are still paying for lots of different services from lots of different providers because unfortunately the market's been, especially in security, been really fragmented over the years. And people tend to build up a lot of legacy dependencies on particular providers for very niche sorts of technologies. I don't think that's what most people want, but much like the previous question we had, it's difficult to migrate from that. If you've already made the investment in time to deploy a certain firewall and a certain antivirus product and other tools for vulnerability management or what have you, moving away from that's difficult, even if you know that the end result might save you some money and simplify your operations.
Okay. Let's go on to Mark.
Yeah, I think a number of our clients we're seeing a little bit all over the place similarly. Those that are more mature on their journeys and adopting cloud technologies are definitely utilizing a lot more vendors. We're also seeing where they're utilizing a larger number of point solutions in order to find and correct very specific portions of what they're utilizing within the cloud, which is ultimately driving up the total number of vendors that they're working with. But on the other side, the organizations that don't maybe have as robust of a cloud environment, they probably do have a number of smaller vendors, or take it all the way to the other extreme. Some that are the most mature have adopted platforms that allow them to look across a multitude of solutions and really consolidate their point solutions down. So 5 to 15 vendors is what I would say is probably out there.
Okay, Mark, 5 to 15. All right. Okay, Dan, what's your number? What's your guess? To give us your reasons.
So my guess is similar range as Mark, because it very much depends on where the customers are, right? If you work with a large-scale enterprise customer that's normally they're in the midst of starting their journey, you'll find that it's a lot of focus on endpoint security and those kind of things, multiple vendors. Then you have your firewall vendors, your intrusion prevention systems. Then you have all your your DevOps, especially if you're new to your cloud journey. You want to heavily invest in your DevOps, DevOps security, especially, right? Make it part of your integral pipeline deployments. So, yeah, I would say about 8 to 17 different partners and software vendors that you want to work with, and vendors in general.
Okay, so it looks like Daniel is the winner of this round. Daniel, you get the above ground pool. You can bring that home with you after the show.
Awesome.
Way to go. So the actual numbers is that 60% have 6+ vendors that they're leveraging, with both 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 being the most popular ranges. Now, John, I will say that there was actually 1% of the people who responded said they have 51 or more contractors. That's quite
Clearly,
a bit.
they had 350 contractors in for those people.
So now let's go on to question 4. We're getting into the challenges when providing comprehensive security for cloud workloads. And so what are the 2 greatest challenges when providing comprehensive security for workloads? And panelists at the new stack, our community has also listed different challenges that inhibit them providing comprehensive security for cloud workloads, including automation challenges, visibility challenges, and budget or training challenges. So what would you guess our respondents say are the biggest challenges inhibiting them from providing comprehensive security for cloud workloads? So why don't we go with Daniel first?
Sure. So looking at some of the other feedback and the general feedback when working with customers, you find that in their journey, deploying and making sure that security is part of their integral life cycle of their applications. A lot of times you'll find that the training, a lot of times it's not just a developer or a security engineer or a security analyst. That security component needs to be part of the developer's approach of delivering a secure application. And a lot of times it's that training of security best practices that I've seen is sometimes lacking and concerning to customers.
Okay, and the second, what would the second be?
So the second is difficulty on reporting. Reporting on, you get alert fatigue. So a lot of alerts, especially if you have a SOC and a SIM, you've got all these alerts coming in. So being able to quickly report on events, having clearly security issue that you have to take care of. A lot of times that is also something that customers find that's giving them some friction in their deployment, in their migration path.
Now I'm gonna give you another chance here, because I should probably list the answers that were available as well. And so we have lack of visibility of security vulnerabilities across cloud applications, integration of security tools into current cloud structure, automation of repeatable manual security actions, difficulty of use of security reporting tools, integration of security tools, training employees to use security tools, training employee on safe security practices, securing the budget, and evaluating current state of security, and then executive buy-in, and then other. So if you were going to rethink that, are there like two that you would list as the top?
Yeah, so but basically, like I said, the training on safe security practices is definitely a big concern when you're deploying new workloads, and the security being number one focus, that is critical. The other would be the integration to security tools.
Training, integration. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to John. John, so what would you say are the two greatest challenges that our respondents said?
Oh, I always tell people that the biggest challenges in technology are not usually technology, but the people and process. So I would typically have to say the automation aspect of that. You know, how do you get people out of the loop? And especially when you start talking about cloud, you're typically talking about a lot more entities and entities that change a lot more frequently, which makes it much more difficult to do manual response and manual remediation of things. And then secondly, just the people aspect of it. You know, are you able to effectively train not so much your end users? I mean, that's where the application runs and where your workloads are is largely invisible to them. But actually now the community that you have of developers to make sure that they're doing the right things in the cloud. I mean, it's one of the things that makes cloud really powerful is it gives developers a lot of control and removes a lot of the friction for deploying infrastructure and configuring the infrastructure. But the problem with that is that if you have developers that don't follow those guidelines, you can end up with really insecure configurations. So getting people to absorb and actually put that security training into practice is another key, challenge, limitation, whatever you want to call it, with cloud adoption.
So automation and training. Okay, so Mark.
Yeah, so the first one for me would definitely be visibility. A lot of times when we start talking with clients, they don't even necessarily understand where they're vulnerable within their environments, what sort of actions they should take in order to help secure their environments. So definitely having that visibility, understanding what assets they have within the environment, what vulnerabilities, what risks they have associated with them, so that they can take the necessary actions to help protect their environments is definitely one of them. And then the second, I think, is around the integration of the security solutions that they do have. That some of them we've talked to clients, we've walked into situations, they've bought something off the shelf, but they haven't truly integrated it with their environment. So they're not seeing the full benefit of it. They're not seeing the full protections that it provides. And that tends to occur a little bit more frequently than we would like to see. Hopefully this will help improve some of those outcomes.
Well, so it turns out that the lack of visibility of security vulnerabilities across cloud apps is 15%. Integration of security tools into current cloud structures was 9%. Automation of repeatable manual security actions is 6%. Difficulty use of security reporting tools was 8%. Integration of security tools was 9%. And training employees to use security tools was 15%. And then training employee on safe security practices was 11%. Securing the budget was 11%. And evaluating current state of security was 11%. But I really liked, John, your answer related to training. So John, I'm going to give you this round. Very good job. We're going to give you let's see here. You're going to get how about that you get the new outdoor patio rug?
Sounds great.
These new rugs these days are very nice, and they actually are very versatile, so you're a lucky man, John. So here we go into the question 5. Okay, so in this survey, we asked to uncover how embedded security is in organizations' DevOps practices. And so the question that were asked was to rate their agreement with the statement from 1 to 5 with strongly disagree as a 1 and strongly agree as a 5 and neither as a 3. How would you guess our respondents replied? Do they strongly agree, neither, disagree, or strongly disagree with a statement that their organization has completely embedded security into their DevOps practices? So what, John, you won that round. Let's go back to you one more. Let's go back to you again.
Well, I would hope that few people would say that they strongly agree, because that phrase included the word completely. It's hard to imagine that there's a lot of organizations that have completely embedded security within their DevOps practices. That said, people tend to overestimate their skills with technology and the maturity of their deployment. So I don't know, maybe 25% of people believe that, agreed with that, I would say.
Okay, 25%. Okay, would say that there are embedded.
I think that you said completely embedded security into their DevOps cycle.
Yeah, let's take out the word completely. So if you were just going to say, that they did embed it into their security, into their DevOps practices, what would you say?
Probably a low majority of people, 50, 60% of people have done some kind of security integration into their typical pipelines.
Okay. So you'd say that 50% 60% would agree that they've embedded security practices into their DevOps processes.
I think that's a reasonable number.
Right. And what we'll do is we'll say agree and strongly agree. We'll add those two up. So if you say 50 to 60%, okay. So let's go on to Daniel.
Okay, so based on that, I would have to say that most customers, most people, when you talk about the security of their development environment, would strongly agree that they're tightly integrated with security-based practices, and that their development cycle primarily in the beginning focuses on security, especially within their cloud deployments.
So what would you say is the number if you're going to add up agree and strongly agree?
Add up agree and strongly agree, I would say 55% if you add up both of them.
Okay. All right. And Mark.
I would guess most respondents heavily agreed that they have security, probably the large majority, because a lot of times when we ask clients how they feel they feel they're doing great. What's actually happening though is maybe it's not so great once you start pulling back the covers and really looking at where there's potential vulnerabilities. So, I believe they said it was high, but I would venture a guess there's probably a large number of those that could still use additional improvement.
So what would you say is the number?
75%.
Mark wins again, and he gets the player piano for that outdoor entertainment at the house. Way to go, Mark. I think what we have seen here is that people are pretty confident about their integration of DevOps. And actually, if you add up the numbers between agree and strongly agree, it comes to 90%. Now, John, I would expect you would probably say in reality, it is much less.
Much
I would
less in
expect,
reality, yeah.
yeah, much less in reality. And it's funny because 57% said they would agree and 33% said they strongly agree. And only 2% said they disagree. 8% said they would neither. And so a funny kind of a dichotomy there in terms of like what people's expectations are versus what really is, you know, expect is the reality. Daniel or Mark, any insights and perspectives on that?
Well, from my point of view, is a lot of times customers not always aware of the security gaps that they might have or not have. So a lot of times people are very confident about their security posture, and some people sometimes might be overconfident and rather be more err on the side of being cautious. When you're talking about security, expect the unexpected. And so people might be overconfident, and that's why there might be more of people agreeing with this, that they're fully integrated. However, as soon as you start doing audits and you start diving deeper, there's always something to find to improve and expand on. So end-to-end comprehensive security is something that we all strive for. It's very hard to deliver.
So anything else from either of you all, Mark or John, any other insights there?
I would completely agree with what Daniel said. I think that a large majority of individuals definitely think of security, definitely put security around it, but might not have the in-depth knowledge to even know that there's a particular attack vendor, that the attack vector, excuse me, that they aren't even protecting against.
Okay. Well, excellent. So why don't we just move on to the last question? And the last question, it's getting a sense of cloud native security tooling overload. And I think if there's a percentage of companies out there that have too many cloud native security tools, I think they probably are looking at this. So the survey dug into the details, and they also then, you know, looked at the same kind of a scale. And so what would you say the percentage of the respondents that agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that their organization was actively reducing the number of security solutions that they use across their cloud native workloads? So what percentage would you say agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that their organization was actively reducing the number of security solutions that they use across their workloads? So why don't we go back to Mark for his response?
I would venture a guess about 50%. I think when we talk with clients, they're definitely interested in helping to consolidate their tools, helping to consolidate the solutions to make it more manageable for their environments. Some of them, when we talk to them though, they're very happy with their existing point solutions, and they've created a way that they can integrate all of those solutions into a SIM tool, for example, that their SOC can take and manage all of the various alerts and perform their investigations. So I would say right about around 50%.
All right. Dan.
I would say combining agree and strongly agree above 55% easily. The reason for this is the alert fatigue is something that's really real when you work in a SOC or when you actively have to work through security issues, and getting alerts from different vendors, from different products, all at the same time, different alert systems. It's causing a lot of, it actually causes a lot of operational overhead that actually reduces your ability to respond to actual critical security issues. And a lot of our customers have said that they're looking towards that consolidated approach when it comes to their security and managing their security. So I would say 55% plus would agree and strongly agree. Combine
55,
those.
okay, 55% plus. Okay. All right. John.
Given the question was in progress versus have completed, I would say the number is high, probably at least as high as Daniel and Mark have said. Hopefully even higher than that, frankly. You know, for Palo Alto Networks, one of our goals is to help customers not just reduce their costs, but have a better operational experience by having that combined platform, by not having to have distinct tools for doing, you know, firewalling and runtime defense and vulnerability management and so forth, but to unify that into a common platform. So for us, you know, we see that as being a pretty compelling differentiator, and certainly something we've seen the market respond to. I think it's very rare that you would find people that say that we're happy having a lot of vendors and want more. Most of the time people are saying we have too many vendors, too many different things to integrate and manage. We want to have less. We want to have a more streamlined environment. So given that the question was in progress, let's say 80% of people are at least trying to get to that point.
Woo! Woo! I think you're the winner there, John. It was actually 74% would agree or strongly disagree, but your confidence wins it all here. Let's give John a big hand. That's the last question. John, you're going to go home with the mini bar and outdoor cocktail set. Congratulations. This has been a lot of fun. Any last thoughts on these results, John or Mark or Dan?
I think it's interesting just to see that you know, our own experiences align in general with what we see from customers. So that's a positive thing, and I think that people are focused on, in many cases, on the right kind of initiatives to improve their security in cloud environments.
I would agree with that, and it's nice to see all the various results that we're getting in across our different clients, across industries, across geographies. One of the things that we often see and get asked from our clients is, what is everybody else doing? How is everybody else doing on their journey? So to be able to see and understand a little bit better where everybody else is at, helps our clients to feel a little bit more confident in where they're at, or know they need to work on a few things.
The journey, Daniel, let's hear it.
So from my side, this is very, really amazing to actually see the results of this survey. I was actually part of helping create the survey with some of the questions, and a lot of these questions focuses on the customer struggles and what they're going through, and it highlights to us where we can keep working on to make it easier and develop things that will ease our customers' journey into the cloud and make sure that it's a secure one. It's really pleasing to see these positive results, and that to see how security is a core focus for our customers.
Well, Mark Rauchwarter, John Morello, Daniel Stewart, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed the discussion. I love the guesses too, and it's interesting to to look at what people are really saying about their postures and where they are in their journey. So thank you very much. I'm Alex Williams, been here for the Prisma Cloud Native Security Summit, the State of Cloud Native Security. This is the preliminary results that we're seeing for the Cloud Native Security Report. These are the initial findings. The complete findings will be out soon. Thank you very much for joining us.